Hello and welcome to This Car Pod.
I'm Kenan.
I'm Filippo.
And we're not together. We're in different places, but we're still going to podcast. And there's a lot of news to cover, and we're going to start covering it. Go for it.
All right. First news story.
The Volkswagen ID Buzz.
Yep. Of course.
This isn't...
Please.
Go ahead.
No, please.
This is an electric van. I love this news story because I think this is one of the most absurd things that's ever happened. This is an electric van that makes everybody happy. Kenan, do you agree that you're happy when you look at it?
Yeah, even me. I think it's really cute. I'm really excited for it.
Do you know what's not going to make you happy, Kenan?
I'm guessing the price, Doug.
The pricing has been announced. Kenan, I want you to take a guess at what Volkswagen... Now, keep in mind, this is an electric van with like 36 horsepower. It may be 200, I don't know. But it's an electric van. Like, it's not a Ferrari.
It's going to be expensive. I was going to guess it's going to be like almost 70 grand. Like, I was thinking it was like
what is
69,
it,
right around there.
The basis model will start at just about $60,000 plus destination. What's more shocking to me is the range. It has a 91 kilowatt hour battery, which is large.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest competitor that people are comparing it to is a Kia EV9 because it also has 7 seats. It's a newer EV.
What's
the
the range?
231 miles.
And isn't the base model just the ID4 drivetrain? It's rear-wheel drive, right? I mean,
the
there's
base
an
model is
all-wheel
rear-wheel drive, and to be fair to them, it has 234 miles. It's the all-wheel drive one that has 231.
Okay, but still, that's not a huge number. Now, the big mistake that Volkswagen made, in my mind, with this... By the way, the reason I think this is such an interesting news story is because we collectively have been waiting for this car for years. Volkswagen invited me to be like one of the very first people to help, be there to launch the car when it was first done. That was...
17 years ago?
That was March of 22. Okay, so it's been 2.5 years since they first showed it off. And there had been rumblings of it before. Remember, there's been always been talk Volkswagen's going to come back with the bus, and they did all these concept cars. This was years in the making. Okay, so 2.5 years go by. It's out in Europe. I was in Europe this summer.
But only the 5-seat version is. The US version is longer.
Well, so this is the big mistake they made. They decided the U.S. market only wanted the long version. The drawback being that it doesn't have enough power to motivate the long version, and the short version is way cooler looking. It's like the difference between Filippo and an ant. Filippo's the cooler looking one.
Thank you. That's so kind.
And
debatable.
so they didn't sell the short version. Well, now we see the problem. By not selling the short version in the U.S., you have a bad range, presumably because it's so heavy, and the cost is immense. If they could have gotten this into the 40s with a 250 mile, then we're talking.
So the cost is high. That's about $5,000 more than where the Kia EV9 starts. So it is high. And every other minivan is what, $40,000? That's where like the Sienna, Odyssey, et cetera start. There are no other electric minivans. So who really knows?
But this isn't this Filippo. This is 60. Well, the base model is what? So you said 62.
The base model is 62 with destination. The first edition, which is only available the first year and has some like interior changes, is 67. And I think to get the multicolored like design, you have to be up a trim, which is 65 or something like that. It's not cheap.
It has 280 horsepower, which is exactly the same as the Odyssey.
Wow!
But it probably weighs more.
Point.
Yeah, it has to.
The range is the big problem. Like, that's just not enough range, frankly.
The ID4 starts at 39,735. But the big difference with the ID4 is you can walk into a Volkswagen dealer, and as long as you have a pulse, you can negotiate the 39,735 down to $12,000, more or less.
Yep.
You
will be able to on these too.
$60,000. It's so cool, and now no one's going to buy it. And it doesn't have great performance because it's 280 horsepower in this giant van, and it's way bigger than people wanted. Like, they thought people are going to use this as a practical van. That is such BS. Boomers are going to buy this to look cool. That's
to remember their heydays. I expect that we'll see a lot in Orange County, here in San Diego. People that want to have a surfboard on top and think that it looks cool, and they're willing to spend $60. But then once
I think like
the 10 people
like
bought
the original, we'll have lots of them around.
No, we won't.
It's over.
No. Some in Southern California and none anywhere else. Who's buying this?
Especially at the size. Not doing the small one in the U.S. was such a big mistake because now we end up with
who buys small vans?
Huh?
Who buys small vans? Like, when was the last time a Dodge Caravan was purchased?
What are you talking about? My friends and I all have Kia Rondos. I don't understand the... the problem.
Right.
There's a Kia Rondo reference. Goodbye, everybody. I've done my.
Nobody else sells small vans for a reason. I don't begrudge their decision. Just I begrudge them waiting 2.5 years, and it's still not on sale. Like
I think
the
mistake you make with regards to the size, Filippo, is I think that you and Volkswagen make the mistake that people are thinking that people are going to buy this like a minivan. I think that people aren't going to cross shop this with a Sienna. I think people are going to cross shop this with memories of their youth. Like I'm dead serious.
True.
Like that's how people are going to think about it. And so they're not going to be like, do I get a Sienna or this weird looking Volkswagen that somehow costs $75,000? Instead, they're going to be like, oh man, I'm a boomer with a lot of cash and I miss having a bus like I used to in the old days. I'm going to now get this. And they're going to sell them in Monterey to people who like used to be hippies and now have homes worth $25 million and their basis is $60,000.
Right. Because everybody else that also wants a cool minivan and is a boomer will refuse to buy an EV. So like who's going to buy it? The thing that really shocks me is like every single Volkswagen commercial over the last however long has focused on the ID bus coming out. They had that Super Bowl commercial where it was in like a shipping container. That was 8 months ago.
Yeah, it's I don't know for sure what's been going on, but just based on the communication that I've had with Volkswagen, it's really been a slog.
Like why? You know, I just don't. You don't even need to like federalize any drivetrains. Like it's.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be production capacity. A lot of these automakers have production capacity problems. Where's it built?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
Hanover, Germany. Damn.
So it also won't be eligible for the tax credit.
Real
$7,500.
It's not eligible for the tax credit?
If it's built in Germany, it won't be.
Well, I'm going to give you a little hint. Within about 6 months of it coming out, Volkswagen dealers will be offering the tax credit through the dealership. Just as a discount. Okay, let's move on to the next story, which is almost as sad as the high pricing of this vehicle.
What?
And that is the Temerario. Actually, I thought the next story was Infiniti, but we'll talk about the John Temerian.
Yes, the John Temerian or Temerindo or Temario, as Filippo would like to say.
No, he'll say Temerario.
Temerario. Yep. So, yes.
That's the closest Doug has gone to
as
correct.
we predicted, as they announced, the new Lamborghini Temerario was revealed at the Quail this year. And it's pretty much exactly like what we were expecting. 789 horsepower from a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 with 3 electric motors, one between the engine and the drivetrain, and then 2 small ones up front. And that's the combined total output is 789 horsepower and 538 foot-pounds of torque. And it does rev to 10,000 RPM, which is really insane for a turbocharged engine. So like engineering-wise, pretty crazy.
Well, hang on. The combined output is like 907 horsepower. You're talking just the gas engine is 790.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yes, my mistake. Combined horsepower is substantially more.
That's
the claim is 907 horsepower and 590 foot-pounds of torque.
What does the Revuelto have?
1,000, and I just reviewed it. Did you watch my video?
Of course. But that's an increasingly
1,000 straight up. 1,000.
That's an increasingly small gap.
It is an increasingly small gap.
The Revuelto has more increasing, my friend.
Yeah, well, but the other thing that's increasingly small is the design risk that Lamborghini is taking with each of their cars, because looks a lot like a Huracan to
it's
me.
A
like
facelifted Huracan.
Did you see it in
person?
person?
In person, it looks a lot like a facelifted Huracan. The rear is kind of crazy in that it has these ridiculous cutouts and you see nothing but tire from behind, which is crazy. But other than that, it legitimately just looks like a Huracan.
Huracan facelift with a hybrid powertrain.
Does it look
Very
good,
disappointing.
Kenan?
Sorry?
Does it look good?
It's fine. I mean, obviously, it looks very subjective to each individual person. I think it looks fine. It just doesn't look. It's not very striking.
It's just
kind of the
two
same.
cool things about this car that I think really need to be discussed. Number one, they named it after John Temerian, which I think is
it's appropriate
nod. It's like a real nod to the man. He was our podcast guest last week, and now he's got a Lamborghini named after him. And number two, it's pronounced Temerario, right, Filippo?
Yeah,
Temerario.
That's like Ferrari.
No, it's a Spanish word because all Lamborghini names.
But
right, it means reckless. Don't forget.
Ferrari is in it. It's a Ferrari and Ferrari is part of it.
There are R's in both, and A's and I's, I guess.
No, the entire sounds Irari is in both Ferrari and Temerario. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's weird. What if Chevy named a car the Fordston?
Man, you are off the rails. Outrageous.
I'm not wrong.
But I don't know. Another I'm excited to see it. We'll see him around. I have constantly already. We're seeing Revueltos kind of everywhere. There were tons and tons and tons of them.
I have yet to see a Revuelto, so speak for yourself.
I've seen 2 already in San Diego. You wouldn't know it if it ran you over anyway.
You've seen Revueltos in San Diego already?
Yeah, 2 of them. Yeah, wow. There was one at Cars and Coffee. It was matte black, and there was an orange one that was driving around too. So they're around. And they definitely are around at Car Week. Saw them everywhere. But and look, I'm sure the car will be great. I think starting price is around $280,000-$290,000. Of course, none of them will be that. They'll all be optioned to the moon. Like
the starting price is $360,000.
How much is a Huracan?
$360,000.
Huracan's base at the end was like $250,000, $260,000.
So that's $100,000 increase.
It's not quite apples to oranges because at the very end they had the Huracan Technica, which was like a stripped downy little thing, I think. And so this is like a real deal big guy. But it says Temerario starts at $357,621 in the US.
When will Doug be able to drive it and give us all a review?
If they're already announcing pricing, it must be coming out pretty soon. Historically, these Lambos have come out pretty quickly. The Gallardo and the Mercy were only a year apart, and that was also true of the Aventador and the Huracan. They were, I think, 2 years apart, but it was pretty tight. It was like 18 months probably. So we just did Revuelto, Temerario soon. Temerario.
Yeah, so hopefully winter for you, early winter will be when you can review it. One hopes. But we'll see. But underwhelming in terms of styling. Won't be underwhelming in terms of performance. But,
when I was a kid, Lamborghini, a new Lamborghini when it came out was the craziest thing. Like when the Diablo came out, I was 3, so I don't remember it. But then when the Murcielago came out, it was like,
yeah.
And even the Aventador after that was such a huge
And when the Gallardo came out, I can't even explain to you how big of a deal that was. Like that there was going to be this like affordable Lambo that looked like that but didn't cost $500,000. And now they're like facelifts.
Of course, they're also going to sell 10 times as many of these as they did Gallardos, and the 100 times many that they sold Diablos.
Maybe not. I mean, I'm kind of curious. I mean, like the performance is crazy, but like the V10 of the Huracan was, and also the Gallardo before it was a huge reason to buy it.
I was at the dealer with the Revuelto, and they told me they have orders through like the end of time.
People that are buying these don't care about the heritage of a V10.
Yeah,
no, especially like the not the earliest owners who just want the newest Lamborghini and have a history with them, but like the middle owners, they just want the newest Lamborghini.
It's not like it's a turbo 4-cylinder or anything. Like a V8, 900 horsepower and a V8 is still pretty good. I think most people just want speed and power and cool looks, and this car still offers it. I don't think it's going to. I think sales are going to be huge. Look at the Urus. The Urus is heinous. It's an Audi Q8 on heinous steroids, and they sell 4 bazillion of them.
Yeah, but people are buying that aren't. It's different. You're buying that so you can actually.
Who do you know that has bought a Huracan? Kind of like you personally know them.
Who do I know as a Huracan?
I know people. No, I know people with taste to buy older Lamborghinis, but I don't know anybody who bought a Huracan.
Alex Troy.
Great.
I don't know Alex Troy.
But then he shot it from a helicopter, didn't he?
Yeah, he's in federal prison, but no, I'm kidding. He's not actually, and I hope he's admonished or whatever the term is.
Admonished is not the right word. I think he exonerated, but not
exonerated.
Admonished.
Okay, give me something else, Felipe. What else you got?
All right, what else do I got? We have the end of the Q50.
Yeah, so this is a big news story, Kenan. Open your ears. The Infiniti Q50 has been canceled.
Wow,
that's so sad.
Kenan, how do you go on? This car changed our lives as kids. Do you understand that?
The Q50 changed nobody's life ever.
No, but come on. The G35 came out in 2003 and it changed the world.
Legit.
I'm dead serious about this. It was Motor Trend Car of the Year in 2003, first off.
Yeah, so was the Chevy Lumina in like 1998.
No, hey, wait a minute. The previous winners in 2002 was the Thunderbird, which I believe was also a very successful, popular car. In 2001, it was the PT Cruiser. So let's not denigrate the Motor Trend
I will
car
never say anything bad about the PT Cruiser. The PT Cruiser was legit when it came out.
The point of the Q50 thing, though, is the G35 was a huge deal when it came out in 2003. It was a massive deal. It was finally the first credible competitor to BMW.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that when BMW came out with a completely altered 3 Series that totally changed that whole situation. and life got different. The E90, it was like totally, it wasn't, the E46 was this, and the E90 was this, and the G37 was right there to capitalize.
I don't remember the E90 being poorly received when it came out for its styling.
God,
I remember the E60 being that way, but not
heard.
the E90.
The E90 was so poorly, but this is what happens with BMW. Every successive BMW, people are like, yeah, that last one was great. Even though everybody hated the previous one. I was there. I was 18 when the E90 came out. I will never forget how poorly received it was. People hated it. It was the most widely mocked car in the history of the world. And now people are like, oh yeah, no, it was always, I always liked that car. It was always great.
That is true. Like fine art, the way to make people appreciate BMW just needs to kill off the car, and then all of a sudden it becomes appreciated. We'll see what happens with the beaver face one. You know, we'll see. Yeah.
Doug,
the point is, the Q50 is gone, and this is a big deal because that was a huge. I mean, that really was like a massive sales success. It carried Infiniti through their peak era. Which
the G35 and G37 were a massive sales success. The Q50 never was a sales success.
It's the same car, just with a different name.
They renamed it, and therefore it's a different car. No, but it was a redesign, and once they redesigned it, it never did as well. Do you remember when they sold the Q40, which was a G37, renamed for a few years?
Did you know that, Kenan?
Fun Infiniti trivia there.
Of course I didn't.
Okay, check this out. This is the thing that actually happened. Infiniti redesigns the car. They decide to rename the car Q50, but they decide to keep selling the old one also alongside the new one, and they're going to call that Q40. And they did this for a period of time.
Year or two? Longer than you'd think.
Get away with this.
And then you would see a Q40 around, and you knew that person got a great deal, or was leasing it, or could not get financed anywhere else. One of the three.
Let's look at Infiniti's sales figures. I've got them pulled up right here.
I don't think we have time for such a sad story.
How many Q50s did they sell?
I'm going to tell you this. I'm about to blow your mind right here. In 2004, this can't be right.
Also,
G35. In 2005, Infiniti sold 207,000 cars. This can't be true. Last year, they sold 46,000 cars. Why
actually more than I was expecting, honestly.
Why are they still doing this? What's the point? Why not just? Are they doing this for practice?
It's a matter of time.
Are they doing this just to give salespeople like practice in selling Infinitis before they move on to another brand?
It's a great
launching pad of automotive salespeople.
I'm not exaggerating.
How many cars did Acura sell last year?
Oh, good question. I can't believe that decline. That's one of the great declines in the history of declines. Acura last year,
145,000.
145,000. Wow.
Man, if you're a third of Acura's size, that's not a great spot to be.
A third of Acura. That's like, whew.
Jaguar sold. Oh wow, rough sales for Jaguar.
Lexus did 320,000.
Yeah, but Jag sold 8,000 cars in the U.S. last year. Well, and by the way, now they have no cars. Period.
Kenan, are you aware of this? This isn't a news story we have on here, but we got to cover this. Jaguar has announced this is a real thing. Jaguar's announced they're going to take a break for a year. They're going to take a break,
just like a sabbatical. Just like we need to go find ourselves, maybe just take some time off at the beach.
Gap year.
Gap year for a college student after college before they start working. Jaguar, a company that presumably employs 10,000 or 20,000 human beings, is going to just be like, we're not going to do revenue this year. We're just not going to make money.
Man.
The U.S. market? Nah.
It's not even the U.S. market. Isn't it globally, Felipe?
It is globally. I think the U.S. market, they still have some 2024, 2025 inventory, but they're not like doing.
Are they still going to sell cars to Waymo that can be equipped with an enormous number of cameras and look heinous?
The biggest surprise there is that they still sell the iPace at all to anybody.
Oh, I mean, it's really one of the great bad cars, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I think when it came out, it was pretty competitive.
It was competitive. In 2017, they sold 40,000 cars, and now they're down to 8 over the course of 6 years.
Did they ever have good years?
Yeah, 2017 when they sold 40,000 cars.
Well, 40,000 is not really all that many. Did they ever have like 100, 200,000 car sale years? Did that ever happen?
The table I'm looking at, Things for Our Friends, a good car, bad car, goes back to 2005, and no.
And they never, ever at any point had strong sales years. Okay.
Nope.
All right, I only want to do one more news story because we need to move on, but I want to do that off-road Mustang. You had like a picture of some sort of off-road Mustang. What's going on there? What is that?
That is a rendering, certainly. Ford a few weeks ago had a dealer meeting, as all the manufacturers have, where they go to dealers and say, hey, these are the cars we're thinking of building. And they are apparently considering an off-road Mustang Unclear whether it'll be a Dakar version of a Mustang or just like a separate car like the Mach-E Rally. Who knows? And also a 4-door Mustang. I made a Mach-E joke there, but it wouldn't be electric, right? It would be like it would be using the Mustang name.
Gas-powered 4-door.
And coming out with a 4-door car and maybe an off-road version.
That's so cool.
So,
Tanner,
cool.
You'd buy this, right?
I think it's cool. Does this become played out at some point where manufacturers just do this? Where they turn
not
sports
yet.
cars into off-roaders?
No,
it
does not.
Clearly hasn't.
No.
So what else do we want to see?
What else
Porsche does it. Lamborghini does it. Ford.
What do I want to see off-roaded?
Yeah.
Yeah. What sports cars do we want to see off-roaded?
I want a Mini Cooper convertible off-road version.
You know,
Filippo,
a regular 2-door Mini Cooper S, like JCW Cooper S,
which of course
lifted.
existed.
That'd be cool.
Was called the Paceman. Nobody bought it, but you know.
No. I don't want the Paceman. I want like knobby tires, like lifted body thing. I don't want some heinous. God, Filippo, come on.
I want them to off-roadify the new M5 that we're not talking about for some reason, despite the fact that we should be talking about the M5 touring. But they could off-roadify that.
We already talked about it. It already has happened.
Kenan saw it in person, probably.
Kenan's gonna tell us about Car Week in a second, but what are we supposed to talk about? We already have made fun of it for being overweight to the end of time. We've already called it a beluga whale, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want me to do that more?
Yeah, please. Like,
all right.
Two more.
The M5 Touring is so big that it might not
Has
be
its own
able to drive
gravitational
on the road.
Give me one more good one.
That's all
One
I
more
heard
good
when
one,
I was
Doug.
there about it too. It's all anybody had to say about it, which was it's like it's so big, it's so heavy. Oh, it's a shame it's so heavy. But we'll get more into that because there's a whole thing around it.
I don't understand why people think it's so heavy. Isn't it only, what's it, like 9,200, 9,400? It's not Hummer EV.
It's not as heavy as a Hummer EV, thankfully, but it is notably heavier than any other car in its class or the class above.
Okay, here's a question. What weighs more, the M5 Touring or a Maybach S-Class?
My recollection is that the S-Class
Like the
weighed
M5.
less.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
I suspect.
M5
200 to 300
sedan,
pounds less.
M5 sedan. No, the wagon is 5530.
Yep.
Okay.
The Maybach S-Class is 5,200.
No way. That's crazy. Do you know how many screens are in a Maybach S-Class? There's like 38 screens. You wouldn't even be able to carry them.
Right.
It's an impressive feat, but BMW found a way to pull it off and make it heavier.
That is wild. It weighs more than a Maybach S680 or 650.
Yep,
Does that have a V12 still?
I don't know. Who knows? It does weigh less than the S63.
It does have a V12. Kenan, this is insane.
Credit to BMW, it weighs less than the Mercedes-Benz S63 AMG E-Performance, which weighs 5,700 pounds.
Yeah, but that's a full-size sedan.
Yeah.
And that car presumably has a lot more power.
Yeah, has like 1,000 pound-feet of torque, some of that. It's got real power.
I drove one of those. That was a great car. You know what I was driving around, you know what I was thinking? I wish I could buy this car. But unfortunately, I don't have the ability to stomach $37,000 in depreciation every week. Okay, but the off-road Mustang. So we don't have any other information about
We know nothing else. So these dealer meetings, famously, every time a manufacturer does them, people come out and say, "Oh, we're shown this," but no cell phones are allowed. Nobody has photos, and these are also presumably pretty early renderings of like this is what it could be. But it'd be cool.
Well, I drove a Rally Fighter. Remember those?
Yeah, of course. The local motors.
Yeah,
that is the off-road Mustang. Of course, it has primarily Honda parts, but sure.
Yeah, not the.
What version of the Mustang is this going to be? Is this going to be?
I assume
what
the
engine's
current.
going to be in this? Is it going to make it awesome and put like a very serious V8 in it, or is it just going to be?
Well, right now it's just
lame?
hawk, but yeah, they would put a V8 in it, and they would do it.
I'm here
right.
for it.
The
Actually,
four-door is the
that might
interesting
be-
part for me.
I think in the hierarchy of cars that exist like this, I think then like I would put the Storado at the top as the coolest. I know it'll be out of production very shortly, but I think that's the coolest. This would, for me personally, probably be second if it has a V8.
Yeah.
I think
You know
that's
what the problem
that's
is,
really
though?
cool.
Both the Storado and the Dakar, as cool as they are, they kind of were cop-outs. Like, I hate to say it, but like,
Of course.
like
So what?
the
Yeah, the whole
Storado
thing
has the
is
same
a-
ground clearance as a Camry. Like, I wanted to see, and I'm not exaggerating here. I wanted to see a lift.
Real suspension travel.
Kenan, you know those cars in Iceland? You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
what
I
I
do.
wanted to see. Filippo, pull up some Iceland cars. That's what I wanted to see. Okay.
You want to see them turn the thing into a bowler Wildcat with those ridiculous,
Yes,
crazy lifts.
yes, I wanted to be able to take that not just off road, but like I wanted to run over some
We'll go
some
through craters.
property that people. Yeah, Les, look at
Hell
that.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what
look
I wanted. If a neighbor like upset you, you could run over his,
Wait,
light.
can I say something about these? We have a van going live in the next week or so on Cars and Bids. That is an Icelandified Sprinter, and it looks so good.
There's
I know.
a bird
Have
you
you
don't
seen
hear
this,
every
Ryan?
day.
I just edited it today. Have you seen this?
It's
That's
incredible.
It's quite something. Anyway, okay. All right. Mustang Off-Road. Let's hope they build it. Kenan and I will buy one, and by that I mean we will look at them when they are at Cars and Coffee.
The four-door
yeah,
one,
brother.
I legitimately think is more interesting, right? Like, sure, Chrysler, Dodge do it with the Charger Challenger. There might be a real market for a four-door version of a Mustang.
Absolutely.
Also,
I think Charger proves that. I totally think there is.
Ford has no sedans, period. So like this would be their only sedan, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. No, I think especially because we're not really sure what's going to happen with the Charger and the Charger two-door, which is no longer called the Challenger. So it'll be interesting to see.
Right.
Yeah, I'm right.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. If they actually do that, I think it could have at least some success, especially if it's not all that hard for them to make. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they have to stretch stuff and do stuff and make stuff.
It does make me
That's
wonder.
how it goes.
Yeah. It does make me wonder if they'll change the Mach-E name. Like if they're rolling out like more Mustang products, will they feel the need to change the other existing Mustang products? Who knows?
No, because they've invested a lot in it and everybody's happy.
It's time for a
Everybody
new generation.
is happy. And I'll tell you, the dealers especially are happy. Before we move on, let's take a moment to appreciate Lexus Racing, the sponsor of this podcast episode. Lexus Racing has been built on a foundation of precision, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to excellence, much like Kenan. Last year, these elements came together for Lexus Racing, and with their team partners at Vassar Sullivan, they won the 23 IMSA GTD Pro Class Championship with the Lexus RCF GT3. Now, I love this type of racing because the cars that race actually look like road cars, and the engine in the RCF GT3 is actually based on the very same V8 that you get in the normal RCF that you can buy, and it wins races in serious competition. We love cars with racing pedigrees, and while this was the first GT Racing Championship for Lexus, it won't be the last. The team is on track for title contention once again in 24 as they come into the final stretch of the season. You can't miss the Dayglow yellow and black Lexus RCF GT3 race cars or the sound of the famous Lexus V8 engine roaring under the hood. Follow their journey every race weekend. Visit lexus.com/motorsports to learn more about Lexus Racing and get all of the details on upcoming races. I want to talk about a couple things. Kenan, can you start us off at Car Week? Kenan went to Car Week, Monterey Car Week. Kenan, tell us what happened.
I did, and it was amazing. There was a lot of hype around it this year, and my God, did it live up. It was so much fun. It was just incredibly overwhelming. I went with some of our friends. Unfortunately, Doug couldn't make it, but I went with a group of our friends, some that are familiar with Cars and Bids. Sam and Nick were there, and Kevin, and it was great. There were so many things. Every year we refine it a little bit more, though. We learn about like what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And some events we learned are really, really worth going to. Like if you can, it's very expensive, but if you can afford it or find a way to do it, Quail is amazing.
Did you go to Quail, Kenan?
I did. Due to a series of circumstances that unfolded, I was able to go, which was very nice. And I had a great time. It's incredible. It just is like, especially for people who like modern classics and like supercars, like that's the place to go. And it kind of has become what Geneva Motor Show used to be. I mean, cars are being unveiled there, and like that's exciting stuff. And everybody's there. Horacio Pagani is there. I saw Christian von Koenigsegg, talked to Stefan Winkelmann for a little bit. Like everybody is there. And then also people in the car world are there too. And of course the food is excellent and all this hobnobbing and stuff, which is fun. But it's a really quality event, and it is ludicrously expensive. And I found that I will go find any way I possibly can to go on from now until the end of time. I just
including circumstances unfolding.
Yes, there were circumstances that unfolded.
I think we can leave it at that.
He's not going to explain the circumstances?
I'm not going to explain the circumstances to you because it was outrageous, but it was a lot of fun. It was an incredible amount of fun.
It sounds like something that I wouldn't have approved. It sounds like Kenan used his...
We wouldn't have approved a whole event in general. Like, it's just, I think it's too much hobnobbing for you. You would like... I'll tell you one thing to do though is like,
I just don't believe in using my status to get me into events, and so I don't.
No, what you did was sign up for the wrong thing for tickets is what you did. But,
Yeah,
but anyway,
I didn't
we'll
go.
move on from that.
What did you see at the Quail? What was like two highlights from it?
Two highs from the Quail. Well, I think. Well, there were two situations that were great. So the one was getting a picture of our friend Nick, who owns a Murcielago, with Stefan Winkelmann. Now, Nick, I don't know that he knew who Stefan Winkelmann was. He's the CEO of Lamborghini. Incredibly well-dressed Italian CEO, as you might expect. And so I was like, allow me to handle all the talking, Nick. And so I went up to Stefan Winkelmann, and I said, Mr. Winkelmann, it's a pleasure to meet you. Just wanted to say, love your cars. I also think that you are to Lamborghini what Luca de Montezemolo was to Ferrari, which he loved. He thought that was hilarious. And I still said, you're one of the most stylish CEOs in the world, which is very true.
Did you tell him that you hated the car he just revealed at that same event?
No. I said, our friend Nick has a Murcielago, one of your finest creations. And Nick was very excited. I said, I would love to get a picture with you.
I more
great picture of her. Nick looking awkward and Stefan looking perfect.
I was hoping you'd talk about some cars that you saw, but it's okay if you don't.
Oh, well, there were a number of cars that were interesting to me. So I saw there's a Ferrari 550 that is modified by Touring, or Touring Superleggera.
Yeah.
And it's tough to see. I was not a fan in pictures and in person.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk more with one of the engineers. And so I did. I talked to one of the development people about the car. And they ran me through the whole thing. The whole body is carbon fiber. I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting. So how much weight does it save? And they said, nothing. Weighs exactly the same as the original car. Like, okay, so what else did you do to it? And they said, well, we changed the final drive. We changed some of the gear ratios. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And they said, and we really went to town on the engine. We gave it a new intake system. We gave it a new exhaust system, high flow catalytic converters, all this stuff. And I said, oh, great, can I see it? And they were like, no, it's not done yet. And they would not open the engine bay so I could see what it looked like. So it's like, the car's not done. And then I asked them, so how many of these cars are you going to make? And they wouldn't give me a number, but they said, but we'll deliver all of them by the end of 2028. Oof. I'm like, okay, great, okay. So it's a complete farce, I think.
Kenan, question for you. Word on the street is that you saw an Aspark owl.
No, I did not. It eluded me. I could not capture the owl, which is unfortunate. Maybe I need mice or something like to entice one. But I was not able to capture the owl. However, people did see the owl driving or not driving around, sitting around, because according to some sleuthing that our friend Colleen did, it's not operational. So it seems they were willing to. Initially they said it was for security purposes, and then at Pebble itself, they said there was some other excuse they used, but it could not move under its own power.
Well,
what a surprise!
First, it was in a roundabout in suburban Italy, and now it's at Pebble. It's really quite the glow up for the Aspark owl.
It remains a stationary vehicle in our hearts and in our minds.
You know what I think about with the owl? A real owl is this big thing, but then when you look at the bones, have you ever seen
small ones? Have
you ever seen the bones of an owl?
It's like a space frame. It's like a tubular space frame.
Yeah, it's like nothing. A real owl. It's like, and I think that's what this is. The Aspark owl pretends to be this thing, but then when you really get into it, it's this thing. You know, it's like not. You know what I'm saying? You kind of understand.
I know what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting.
It's a well-named vehicle. The owl part of it.
Oh, very well named. Definitely well named.
The Aspark part of it. Come on, join some of the great supercars of all time in terms of naming. Diablo, Mura.
Well, they're also named after animals.
Owl. Yeah, nice. But no, I did not see one. Unfortunately, it was not at the Quail. I was hoping that it would be, but it was not. But there were a number of other cars that were.
What else? Kenan, what was your highlight experience at the Monterey Car Week?
It's so difficult to narrow it down. I think this sounds very cheesy and it is a little bit of a cop-out, but truly going with like your friends who really love cars and like driving around in the same car together. Like, admittedly, all of us wanted to have our own cars there because there is something really cool about having your own car and showing up, which is cool, which I did last year. But also having a car that you can go around in together, like 6-passenger thing, is great. And just like seeing stuff and all freaking out. Like at one point we saw a car, like we couldn't tell what it was. We got closer to turn. It was an E9 CSL race car just driving on the road. And it was like a oh my god.
One of the things that I remember is that all license plate rules are suspended by the local authorities during the week. People drive around in any manner of road illegal. Oh yeah, I mean crazy road illegal cars registered in Europe, prototypes that have no form of anything.
Oh,
no problem at all.
No, and yeah, absolutely, that's so true. But if I had to pick one thing that I really loved, a listener of ours and a friend of mine now, Eric, let us come over like to his place, and we all eventually went over to the staging for the Tour d'Elegance, which is where if you're part of the Concours, you can get additional points for driving a car on this huge tour that they lay out, which is kind of arduous for some of these really old cars. Like it's a commitment to do it. But we went for the staging really early in the morning, and to see the cars they're all just parked like, ready to go, and to get up close with them and talk to the owners is incredible. But then we found out you can also just like Pebble Beach, the golf course itself wasn't really like, for the event itself on Sunday, they really are strict about security. But before that, like, it was just a golf course. There are people golfing. And so like the tour cuts through part of the golf course. It cuts through like the driving part of the golf course. So we went and walked over there and stood there, and that's where we stood to watch everything go by with legitimately maybe 50 people. There was nobody around. And so like, if you can get in to do that and then you see everything drive by, it is the coolest thing. And the coolest car without question that we saw, in my opinion anyway, was the Aston Martin Bulldog. We got to see that drive by, and it like the front end of it drops down. So instead, some headlights pop up and people think that's cool. These pop down.
Filippo, you don't know what this car is.
I do know what this car is, but I'm grabbing a picture right now.
But it popped. I got to see it in person. Pop the lights down, and boy, they're bright. They're really bright. But
Filippo, click on Kenan, get him out of there. Click on the picture in the lower left that shows it outside. Yeah. No, not that one. That one. The bigger one.
You see how hard this is, Filippo?
Oh, you want this with the headlights?
No,
I'll show you the headlights.
The one that shows it outside. Why can't he just do it? There, yes.
You see how hard this is, Filippo? You mock me constantly.
And here you are. Imagine the ugliest thing you've ever seen, and then triple it. And
it's
picture an extreme wedge, and it's
extreme wedge.
It's as wedgy as they get. But that was just to see that driving around, and like Suzetta Marauder was another one. To hear that, like that V16 was really cool. I mean, to get to see those cars like driving, and in addition to Ferrari 250 GTO and all that stuff, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Doing that in like conjunction later on with historics at the Laguna Seca is easily two of the best things you can do, and those like cost nothing to do as well, and they were so much fun.
Ken, and I'm glad you went, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm sorry I couldn't go. I went 5 years in a row. I think it's one of the most special times to be a car enthusiast. I think that especially if you're into sports cars and exotic cars and everything, it is just like the whole week is like a citywide celebration of like special cars. And it's hard to even explain to non-car enthusiasts how special it is. Like you go into the parking lot of a motel and you'll see like a Diablo SE30 parked there because that's the only accommodations they could get. You go into the drive down the street and there's a Bugatti Chiron. I mean, I remember driving down Ocean Avenue in Carmel one time, and a 250 GTO coming the other direction. Like,
yep, it just happens. And
anything is on the table. Like all those cars that you hear about that I only drive this car twice a year. This
is one of the two times.
Yeah. Like, that's
absolutely. I will say it is exhausting because you just anticipate around any corner could be any car you've ever dreamed of seeing. Doing just like being around. You could be sitting in traffic and a McLaren F1 is behind you.
Totally.
Like it's just that's the reality of Car Week, and it is like for anybody, if you have not gone, if it's on your bucket list, find a way to do it.
It's also
you don't have to do it crazy expensively either.
No, I think that's the big truth that people should understand is that like truthfully, you can have fun, just fly into San Jose, rent a car, and that's it, and like get accommodations somewhere, and that's it. You don't have to go to any events. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend big money in Carmel for dinner. You don't have to go to any You could just walk around and like have probably if you're into seeing cool cars, probably the time of your life.
Yeah, I think one of the best things is go get a little bit of ice cream, sit on like a wall in Carmel, and watch stuff come through. It's so insane, and it's wonderful. So if you've planned on doing it, find a way next year. Go. It's truly one of the great automotive events of the year, no question.
Well, on the subject of old cars, Filippo, I'm sure you've seen in our document here that I've written something called "It's Insane That Benz Is Still Rockin' It." And you might be thinking, what the hell are you talking about?
I was wondering exactly that.
Okay. Kenan and I are sitting on my porch last night, and I was like, you know what's wild? The guy who invented the car, Carl Benz, right?
Yeah, he's so involved day to day.
Everybody agrees in 1886, the Carl Benz patent motor wagon is the first car. That's kind of like universally broadly agreed. It's insane that the company is still making cars. The example I gave was imagine if Wright brothers was making 777s. Like that's what this is. It's crazy when you think about it. That Benz is like still like not only a car company, but like the big, like a huge global iconic brand. Isn't that wild? The dude just showed up with bicycle wheels and a tiller, and here we are 150 years later.
That's a really interesting point.
I'm curious. I bet there are other industries where this is true, but I wonder, like, what are they? Like, where was the first guy, the 1700s when such and such a thing was invented? What company is still running?
Well, of course, Peugeot is still making pepper grinders. They've been doing that for a long time. Peugeot's still in business.
Okay, but is the guy who made the first pepper grinder, is his company still in business?
Good question.
It's an interesting point, is it not?
Well, I will say that the pepper grinder was invented by Peugeot in 1842. And they're still making them today.
It's especially crazy when you think about how many car companies failed along the way. Yeah. But the dude who started the first one, right, whose wife Bertha took it on that trip that everybody knows, to prove that cars could be real. That company is still around, and they made my station wagon.
And your
it's not like
G-Cab. They've made many of your cars.
It's not like the first person who invented the computer is around. Like that company wasn't Apple, or it wasn't like that's not around. Like that's not the same person. It was the Kenback one, which is.
And even then, even if it was, when was that? That's probably 100 years after the car, or 50 years after the car. But Benz is still kicking it.
That's I hadn't thought about it in that way, but that's an excellent point.
I mean, even the Chrysler brothers, or the Dodge brothers, Walter P. Chrysler, that's over.
That is over. Cadillac's still around, Ford's still around, which were both early.
They were early, but I could name you 5,000.
Yeah.
Because I went on a deep dive of old car companies a couple of weeks ago. I could name you 5,000 old car companies that are not around anymore. Like there are so many. Like me and Kennan's favorite is Hispano Suiza. Like when we see a Suiza, like we worship at the altar. And my favorite Suiza, of course, is the 810/J P71 18-cylinder 500-Q. Ken and I believe you agree.
You believe correctly.
That's what they're all called. But anyway, that's
the watch industry. I know you want to talk about the watch industry is another one where there are manufacturers who like invented the wristwatch. I believe was Breguet. They're around.
Invented
the wristwatch. Like took a watch, put it on the wrist of someone that exists.
It is notable to Doug's point though that Mercedes isn't just around. Like Cadillac, just around. Frankly. But Mercedes is still innovating. They're still like the leader in luxury cars.
They're like the leader. Like if you want a success story of a business, founder to complete like still utter domination, it's this one.
You just skip that piece of history between 1930 and 1945 because Mercedes-Benz certainly overlooked it. Other than that,
I was at the BMW museum and I noticed they didn't talk a lot about that era. Did something happen in that period that they should have? Okay.
Can't remember what it was.
There's a lot still we have to talk about. I want to talk about the Focus RS. Can we do that?
Sure. It's pretty incredible.
Okay. I normally don't digress too much into cars and biz stuff because I don't want this podcast to seem like an ad. But even though it's sponsored by Cars and Biz, we'll get to that. Anyway. But this Focus RS we have a Focus RS on Cars and Biz right now that is absolutely insane. Okay. Have you seen this, Kenan?
I have.
Okay. So it's gray. And you're like, okay. No. It's one of one in a color called magnetic metallic. And the story goes that the car was won at a charity auction by the first owner who bought the first one. They claim it's the first one. I don't think we could verify that. They claim it's the first one.
We were able to verify that it was the first one sold, not necessarily the first one that Ford built.
Okay, got it. So the first sold Ford Focus RS, he wanted it at a charity auction, and Ford said, hey, you can have this in any color you want. Now, unfortunately, the person chose gray, which turned out to be a sort of similar color to what they ended up making. But it's still the gray that they made was like a flat gray. It's different, but this is the coolest thing in the world. Imagine winning a charity auction, having the first car and the only one in this special color. I think this is so insane. I read this thing, and I was like, what is this? This is so cool.
Do you remember how much he bought it for? Because it's a wild number.
Well, but it's a charity auction.
It was a charity auction, but the original owner paid $550,000.
But that's a write-off.
To charity. Yeah, of course, it's a charity auction. But it's still notable. Like, it's notable because I think at this point we've kind of discounted the Focus RS as just it's a hot hatch. But it was a big, big deal in 2016 when it came out.
Huge deal. It's a special car.
It was a huge deal, but also all of those buying the first at a charity auction things. Of course, the first C8 sold for like more than a number higher than Ken can even imagine exists. Canon only goes to
Yeah.
about 3 million. He doesn't know about anything higher than that.
This
I
is
know
such a cool
about
car to have,
like
though.
50 million, 70
You know
million.
about
I can go up
50.
to that.
You know about
Yeah,
50.
250 GTOs. I know where they live.
Brett, are you gonna come find them?
I know where they are. Everybody knows where
They're
they are.
just such a cool car. I mean, it has 71 miles an hour. It's still a modified, as you'd expect
Yeah.
for the first one sold. But no reserve auction makes it especially exciting. Like, it's just cool to have. I'm into it.
It's so.
I wish it were.
cool.
I definitely, if I were ordering the first one, would have definitely gone for a crazier color than they
It
went.
had to
It
be-
is handsome looking. I'll give it that though.
It had to
really
be a
nice.
color that they were offering already. And I bet it had to be a color, if I had to guess, a color they were offering where the Focus RS was being built. Like, not just any color that Ford did, but like, I'm sure there were some restrictions put on it.
Kenan and I would have done Mr. Chrome.
Why not? Yeah. Oh, dude, that would be so cool.
You know, the one
We would've
thing
done
that
would have been it.
purportedly Ford did say about their potential Mustang variants, that they're not bringing back Mr. Chrome.
And do you want to know why?
I don't know. I assume the paint has some chemicals to make it work
My
that aren't
buddy
legal anymore.
Justin, who lives in Orange County, he convinced them to build his Ford GT in Mr. Chrome. He got the only one, and he paid for them to lock it out. And I don't know if the lockout is still good, but I actually read a quote from Ford that said that someone did it on the Ford GT and made us lock it out, and so we're not doing it again.
Wow.
Now I don't know if that means again forever, but they did no other Ford GTs in Mr. Chrome, and my understanding is that like that's part of the process. You're talking about the GTD, right?
Yeah. And any other Mustang generally. They were kind of general about it.
Well, the color is a disaster. It became a whole problem.
Yeah.
Impossible to take care of if it gets damaged.
It's impossible to take care of. I would take care of it in the sense that I would drive it everywhere and brag.
Sounds right.
Okay, listen, we've spent way too much time on these first two things. We have to skip the market report and move on to the Q&A. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Filippo?
But keep in mind, folks, the market report, and we did do a little bit of market report, is brought to you by Cars and Bids.
The Q&A is going to be sponsored by Cars and Bids.
Oh.
We're going to sponsor the Q&A this week. Today, we're going to move on to the Q&A, the question and answer session. And remember that you too can submit a question. You just go to carsandbids.com, click on communities. There will be a post there asking you to submit your questions. We will answer the top questions. This week's Q&A is sponsored by Cars and Bids, the finest auction website on the web, where we sell and buy modern cars from the modern era, some of which have reserves and some of which don't. Filippo, anything else?
It's free to sell on Cars and Bids, and we have an industry low buyer's fee. And 625,000, or a little bit over that, users and millions of people visit our site every month.
And we keep selling cars. Is everyone aware we sold a Resvani tank?
Yep. And man, was there a conversation about whether or not it's a real tank. The comments went a little awry on that one.
I didn't want to read the comments of that one. I skipped that one. Okay. Q&A. There's some great questions this week, which is why I wanted to specifically get to the Q&A. First question is from Martini Rossi. Hey, this is a question for Ken, Doug, and Filippo. I just want to stop right there. Yeah, we know. That's it. That's who this is. What do you think?
They could direct it to who they likes. People might want to know where Filippo got his giraffe shirt. That's a question.
Also, sometimes there's Nick, and we don't want Nick to answer these questions.
We don't want Nick to answer this one.
Nope.
What car from a TV show or movie is your favorite? My answer is the Jurassic Park Ford Explorer and the Jurassic Park ML320. Very boring answers. I'm very curious what Filippo's answer is because I bet it's insane.
I don't have an answer because I'm not that into movies or TV, and I don't have favorites.
God.
Filippo, Kenan's
have
going to answer.
favorites.
Kenan's going to answer, and I then during
Kenan's going to choose a Ferrari F355 from something.
Pick one. I don't care what you pick. I don't care if you pick a Dodge Intrepid from season 5 of the X-Files. I want you to pick one. Kenan, go for it. Filippo will get an answer together.
There are so many. I love when cars appear in movies and stuff. I mean, the white Testarossa from Miami Vice is a great example. I think that is one of the most killer-looking cars. The 308 from Magnum PI, the DeLorean from Back to the Future. I mean, all of those cars are awesome. Although it was a rep, the 250 from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like that. It's like those. I love when a car is kind of an unofficial character in something. And in all of those TV shows and movies, the car was part of the reason why people and honestly, it did so much for all those brands. It's why people went and bought a lot of those cars later on. But I look for like shows where it like I love looking at old movies and finding clips of like what car was used in like some 80s movie. There was and there are just so many cool like car chase scenes and stuff that use cars. It's just I love whenever they appear and it's an extra character.
Yeah. And those are good answers.
Lots.
Those are some of the more iconic ones of all time. I mean, yeah,
Eleanor.
every one of those movies. Yeah, Eleanor. Yeah. Those were
all the Ferraris in it too.
The Ferris Bueller answer is a really good one because that's not a car movie. Like, people are always like, "Oh, the Mustang and Bullitt," and it's like, yeah, that's a good one. But like the Ferris Bueller one is great because that movie was that car. I mean, like that's one of the great props in the history of movies is that car.
You killed the car. Yeah, exactly.
Filippo, your answer, please.
I will give you 3 answers that I've come up with while Ken was giving his answer. On Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we should have been talking about the Audi 880 that the dad drove. First of all,
I thought it was a 5,000 or a 4,000.
I mean, who knows? Frankly, I will accept that I'm wrong, but not accept any blame for it.
Oh, it's a 100. Yeah, it's a 5,000 or yeah. It's a 5,000. 80 is the smaller one.
Whatever. From Twister, the Ram.
Oh, the Ram from
Iconic.
Twister.
And
great
then
one.
from
You just Googled movie cars.
No, I didn't. That is what came to mind while Ken was talking. And then he said something that made me think of The Office. And in The Office, John Krasinski's character drives a Saab 92X briefly, and that's just a cool car.
True. That is true. And the Chrysler Sebring is a perfect match for Michael in that.
It is indeed. Those are the 3 that have stuck out to me today.
Nonetheless, the answer is the 1992 Ford Explorer from Jurassic Park.
Also a good answer.
It's a fair answer.
Remember when the T-Rex destroyed it?
No, I've never seen the movie.
Okay, well, here's what happens.
I read the book. I'm familiar.
In the book, it's a Land Cruiser, but in the movie, it's an Explorer because Ford wanted to pay. And what happens is the T-Rex destroys the car, but what they don't tell you is that 20 minutes later, the transmission would have exploded and the car would have destroyed itself anyway. That's how they should have killed those people.
Didn't you review something that was a prop car from the movie or a recreation of that?
A DeLorean, not a Jurassic Park car.
I thought you had done a Jurassic Park car too. No?
I would murder you to do a Jurassic. If someone called me and said I got a Jurassic Park Explorer with the bubble roof, I would say, can I send you Filippo as a sacrifice? Okay.
Totally fair.
Next one.
Good question.
From Never Use Blinkers. Question for Doug, Kennan, and Filippo. Yeah.
Doug, ask the question.
I'm actually just sad about the ordering here. Why I was last?
What is the wildest out of place car spotting you've ever seen? Okay, I'm gonna set the stage.
Oh, I've got some good ones.
I went to Hanoi, Vietnam.
That is Hanoi? Quite a stage to set.
Yeah, well, it's hot there, and there's a lot of motorbikes. And here's what Hanoi's like. I'm gonna be the motorbikes. Okay.
Yep.
When I was in Hanoi, the nicest car I saw was worth, I don't know, $900. It was mostly just motorbikes. Filippo, do you understand?
Yep.
One day I walk out of my hotel and parked right next to my hotel in a sea of $900 cars and motorbikes, Mercedes McLaren SLR. Changed my life.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I was like, this thing shouldn't be in Hanoi. And it indeed shouldn't because of all the motorbikes. Okay, that's the answer. Do you guys have any lesser answers?
No.
That's much better than what I was going to say, admittedly, but that was pretty good. And F40 on PCH was kind of a shock, but it wasn't as nearly as out of place.
Was it during Car Week? And
I did once come across a Lexus RX abandoned in the jungle. That was wild. It's like trees completely grown around, and it's like, huh?
What jungle?
This was in the deep Caribbean, and I was off way somewhere where like you wouldn't expect any car, and it was like Lexus RX.
That car was stolen from a family in suburban Chicago, and
it ended up there.
Traffic drugs, and then hidden in the jungle. There's probably a body in it.
Yeah. You definitely win. There's no question about that.
Filippo, you got one?
No, I don't. I'm really trying to think about.
You've traveled crazy places. You've seen crazy things.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything that wild or that out of place.
Whenever I see an American muscle car in Europe, I freak.
I remember years ago I saw a P38 Range Rover in a small in like a small town by the sea, and I texted it to Doug at the time. I was like, who?
Yeah, car spotting to me is all
Italian
about
plates,
context.
like German plates, whatever.
To me, car spotting is all about context. Like when I see a Euro market car here and I get excited, I'll post it. Sometimes people are like, there are 5,000 of those every mile in Italy or in Amsterdam, and it's like, yeah, but when people send me Challengers that they saw in Paris, and I think that's cool, right?
Yeah.
And so like when I'm like Chrysler. Seeing any Chrysler in Europe is a pretty big deal. Except for like Cherokees and Grand Cherokees, those were sold in some numbers, but anything other than that is a big deal. Chrysler never really did figure out Europe, and so like I saw Concorde in Vienna this year, and that's
Nice.
an exciting
This summer I
You
saw
also
a
saw
couple
Concord
of,
on the River in New York, you know.
That's true. That was a crazy out of place sighting. I was walking along the Hudson River, and there was the Concorde.
Chrysler.
No, regular.
The regular Concorde. Wow.
The supersonic one.
Not the LXI.
No.
Remember those crazy Chrysler trim levels? LX in capitals. I was lowercase.
Correct.
Oh, it usually is. It usually is.
Okay, those are answers for that. Okay, next question from JDM fan 345. Hey Doug, no Kenan and Filippo this time.
Thank God.
Stay silent. With the amount of followers you have, you must get approached quite often on the street. Tell us about some of the wildest stories of fans that you have met over the last 10 years. I'll tell you a couple. I got two. One time, I was just sitting at home and I get this email from this guy. And he says, hey, I hear you're moving to Philadelphia.
You can see where this is going.
You want to hang out with me? You know, I live in Philadelphia. And it was Filippo.
And then we got pizza.
One time I'm at this meetup and this guy's car breaks down. No, and it was Kenan. No, those are real stories. But what are some of the weirder ones? You guys are always with me. This always happens. Do you ever? I feel like almost every time it goes about the same. People are excited and we talk about cars for a minute and they take a picture and that's kind of it's some. I would say that 1 out of every 100 of those people becomes like a very close friend of mine. But generally speaking, they're not that weird, right?
Yeah.
No, I know usually people are very like one of the great things I think about you is like I can't imagine what it must be like to be like Tom Cruise, like where you literally cannot go anywhere. But you, it's like when people come up to see you, they're really happy and like really want to talk to you about cars, and you know it's usually a good conversation, and people are always usually very nice, and you're very gracious with your time. So I don't think there's anything I've never experienced anything weird or like oh my god. But there are people. I know what it is. It's Jerry Seinfeld came up to you and was like, Doug, we know who you are. And that might be the weirder one.
Seinfeld came up to me and said to me, Doug, I watch all your videos. And I didn't know how to recover from that. And I had a conversation with Seinfeld where he was totally normal and I was incredibly awkward. And the sad part about such a conversation is that this happens to me all the time. People come up to me all the time. And so I should have known how to respond to like coming up to a celebrity. Like I've seen it play out thousands of times with me, right? And so like I should be prepared. And so I'm sitting there with Seinfeld and he's like, so tell me about you, like, what do you like? And I'm like, cars.
Your show?
Cars? That's kind of how it went. And he's like, yeah, but like, so like what kind of cars? And I'm like, Porsche.
Yeah, but if only he had said, "Isn't the 356A the greatest car ever?" Then he could be like, "All right," that would have snapped you out of it. Like, "Oh no, never mind. Screw that car."
He was wonderful, to be honest. He really was. He literally did come up to me and say, "Doug, I watch all your videos," which was very cute. And
your response was all of them.
And that's what I said. I said, "Really, Jerry? You watch the Kia minivan ones?" And he laughed. But that was the last time he laughed. The rest of the time he spent like astonished that I'm so inept at speaking, considering it's my career.
Probably hasn't laughed since.
He probably hasn't watched one of my videos since. Okay, next question from DJ Double Lunch. Doug, what's your opinion of the Toyota BZ4X RC cars being used in the Olympics? I think one would look good on the table next to Toyota Goat and Toyota Bee. Filippo, can you explain this to me? I didn't watch the Olympics.
Yeah, of course. At the Olympics, for some event, I don't remember which event, they used an RC car that's modeled after the BZ4X or Subaru Solterra, who can tell, to do, I can't remember what, but like there was like some small purpose for it.
Well, what was the purpose?
Nobody knows.
Toyota's robot cars are retrievers. They work hand in hand with human staff to return the javelins, hammers, and shot puts and discuses. The picture was posted. These things look absolutely ridiculous. Can you pull up a picture? There's a picture of one.
There you go.
With that one with like a red fellow in it, who I assume is the Olympic mascot. I stopped paying attention to the Olympic mascots. They don't look the same to me. I always thought it was a cool trend, and then they all ended up looking like the same. My opinion is that this is the best version of the BZ4X, which is one that you can't be seen in.
You know what's most notable? They're worth about the same as a real BZ4X.
Yeah. And they have the same range, too.
Nice. Zing! Got him!
Nice.
No, I'm kidding. The BZ4X is a car. Okay, next question. From Paul Hanrahan, what car's pure existence is its biggest quirk?
I've got an answer for you.
Okay.
The Peugeot 1007.
No way. That was a great idea.
No. First of all, no. Second of all, the fact that somebody decided, I'm going to pull up a photo, decided to make a
Kenan,
sliding
you know about this?
door to,
All right.
It's a small subcompact.
Oh,
what
yes,
happened.
the one that
Here's
goes
what
like this.
Here's what happened. This is a great idea. They realized the problem with car parks, as we call them in the UK, is that the doors bang into the car next to you. So they came out with a little hatchback that has sliding doors. It was a great idea. Unfortunately, the public didn't think so.
There were a couple of issues. One is that they were power sliding doors and incredibly slow. They were, and incredibly slow. Second is that the doors were incredibly heavy, and therefore the car was incredibly heavy. And the third is, this is like a great concept car. You know, like, yeah, that's a smart idea. How did anybody approve this being built? Who decided, yeah, the financials work out for us on this one?
Listen, Filippo, I'm going to tell you this. The history is littered with things that were thought, maybe this would be a good idea, maybe it won't, let's try it. And sometimes it's a great idea. When Carl Benz, proprietor of one of the great car companies for 150 years, when Carl Benz was coming out with the patent motor wagon, which has tires that are this thick and a tiller and a wood bench, like a park, you think he knew that was going to take off?
Here's to the dreamers.
Yep.
Who didn't know? Chrysler minivan took off. It seemed like a weird idea, but look at it now.
To be fair, there was a year when they sold more cars, more 1007s worldwide than Jaguar did in the U.S. So,
well,
they should have taken a year off, as it turned out.
Well, they actually did, Kenan. They've taken off every year since 2009 when the car was canceled. No, when was that car built, Filippo?
04 to 09. You were so right.
That's wild. I was in Barcelona and I saw a bunch of them. For some reason, whenever I go to Barcelona, I see them everywhere. I don't know if that was. It seems to me that.
Can I tell you a secret about Southern European countries? Because when I went to Portugal, there was no car that wasn't in this era. Because 08 was the last year anybody had money to purchase a new car.
Yeah, that's so true. They buy all their cars from Germany when the Germans have already used them up.
So every car is from 2003 to 08 when there was a great run up in the European economy.
How is the answer to this question not the Murano Cross Cabriolet? I mean, the whole
because
I assume this.
No, there are reasons.
The spirit of the question is like normal manufacture, because you could argue like this is at a Marauder or
so the Murano Cross Cabriolet is insane to me because like it was insane just as a thought exercise.
No,
and then
no, I'm going to disagree with that because there were a bunch of SUVs that were convertibles at the time. Or had like a rear end.
Let's name them. The Jeep Wrangler. Then there was also there was the Jeep Wrangler.
The Jeep Wrangler, the best-selling two-door car in America, the Jeep Wrangler.
Okay. A bunch.
Okay, so it's one.
So let's
that dominated that market.
Well, prior to that, the Chevrolet Tracker, the Defender, the Freelander, the LR2.
Wait. Let's go slowly through them. The Chevrolet Tracker was briefly offered as a two-door convertible, but years before the Murano Cabriolet.
Yeah. Like I said, beforehand.
Because it was selling poorly. The Defender stopped being offered in 97. The Murano Cross Cabriolet came out 15 years after that. What was your next one that was ridiculous?
Filippo would argue they're students of history. They've looked back.
The Land Rover Freelander / LR2.
The Freelander, there was a convertible two-door version that sold for 30 minutes, and then it was so unpopular they got rid of it in favor of the four-door model. You know, I have this contention that every single two-door SUV in history has failed. Have we ever discussed this?
I mean, except for the Wrangler, the best-selling two-door in America.
But even the Wrangler is now 85% four-door. Even the Wrangler, the two-door that SUV that ends the discussion, is actually supplanted by a four SUV. Yeah. And I think it's kind of a funny thing. Like there is not a single two-door SUV that has not failed. And I bring this up, and people are like, "But what about the Chevy Blazer?" And it's like, I don't see any two-door Blazer. No, that failed.
May I throw my suggestion in there I think it's the Smart Cross Cabriolet is one of the weirdest, like the fact that it exists at all from a major manufacturer. Granted, it didn't exist in the United States, but like what?
Yeah, that's a great one. It was insane from the outset.
Yeah, the Crossblade was wild.
Oh, the Crossblade,
yeah. That's what I assume you meant.
Yes, it is.
Look at that Crossblade. Pull up that image.
It's so cool.
Give us a full of Filippo. I want to see what I missed. Ugh.
Could have been yours.
Kenan, we could be driving around in that right now.
We should have split it. But yeah,
it sold. That last one sold. That didn't sell with us. It sold after.
But the winner, he deserved that car. He really deserved.
Well, that one, yeah. But we had one list a couple.
We had one
weeks
recently,
ago. It was in Utah, and it didn't get to reserve, but they put it together after. So even that one's gone. We don't have any available smart.
And here we are, crossblade-less.
Crossblade-less, driving around a Toyota Sequoia.
What a downgrade.
I mean, it's only slightly preferential to walking, but
okay, that's our podcast. Filippo, do you have any parting thoughts to say?
Yeah, sell your car on Cars and Bids. Go to carsandbids.com/sell-car to get started.
Is that what it is? carsandbids.com/sell-car?
Sell-car, if you want to be specific, yeah.
Sell-car. Kenan, have you sold any cars on Cars and Bids?
as a matter of fact, 2, both no reserve.
No reserve.
Thrilled with the result on both.
Yeah, you should be. You did great. I have also sold many cars on Cars and Bids, and it was a smooth and wonderful transaction. Cars and Bids, the greatest place to buy or sell your modern enthusiast car.
Carsandbids.com.
And this was our podcast, the greatest one we've ever done. Goodbye, everybody.
The most unhinged, for sure.
Goodbye.